Well, welcome to the ugly side of the red shed. This is my next project. I've got to fix this wall. Now, in the summertime, I'm going to miss a little bit of this ventilation, but there's a downside to that too, because that bottom is not connected at all, and this wall it's really not even holding the shed up anymore. So this bottom beam is completely gone. These boards are, as you can see, rotted beyond useful service life, and it goes about halfway up. I think the rest of it is salvageable, but I'll see once I get it torn apart like how bad it really is. Let me bring in here and show you some of this rot. The roof has sagged a little bit, as you can see by this roof line. So I think this corner of the barn has settled, shall we say. And another problem with this is the water flow, because that's a lot of surface area. When the water hits it, it flows right down, hits the ground down here, and because of the slope of the rest of this yard, it slopes down quite a lot. This water, just as it comes off this roof, it flows onto the ground and then goes right back into the barn. Now, as I was raking this out and clearing it off so I could take a look and inspect everything, I did notice something interesting. Down here is actually a drain pipe that goes completely under the barn and comes out underneath the barn on the other side. So this would be a great thing. I was thinking I would have to, excavate a lot of this, either make a swale for the water to run one direction or the other, or put in a French drain, and which direction do I put it then? Do I put it that direction? Do I put it this direction? But this makes it a lot easier, because if I do put in a French drain, it only has to go so far as that drain pipe. Whether or not it's clear, I don't know. But we can clean that out and have the water go through that drain pipe and out, and that solves a lot of problems that I was thinking I had. Let's get to work on this thing. Now, I heard a theory on the internet that water flows downhill. So we on the YouTube community are nothing if not scientifically minded, so I'm going to test that theory. I'm going to dig a trench that goes from the high side here down to that drain pipe that I found, and before I get a chance to tear this apart, I'm sure to get some rain in the next couple of days. So as it rains in the next few days, as I come back to check this out, I want to make sure that this corner of the barn is staying a little bit drier with this new trough bringing the water down to its drain point. I think somebody else had this idea too. I'm hitting a lot of small rocks that somebody probably put in here for drainage. So they must have had this technology 100 years ago too. We'll keep clearing it out. Yes, I'm breathing hard. Yes, I'm out of shape. Let's see if this works a little bit. Until I get a chance to tear this wall apart and start building. Now inside here, you can see what this wall looks like. In this corner, there's no concrete, never has been. You know, if you want to call that concrete. But this corner's bare, and every time it gets wet outside, this corner, you know, the dirt here gets real dark. So water's getting in here as well. So I mean to take care of that. Hopefully our experiment outside will help take care of the dampness in this corner. As you can see, this beam on the floor starts off as about 5 by 5, and by the time it gets to that corner, it ends up kind of like nothing by nothing. So that will need replaced. The wood here under this window is just about gone. That needs replaced. Really what I'm going to do is take everything apart between this post and this post. There's supposed to be a top beam that goes between those posts, and it is missing altogether. Someone just scabbed these 2x lumber in here. I'm going to take out that window. I do like the windows. I will probably just keep those frames. They are rustic and reused, and I support that. So I will probably put those back in place, but I'll build a proper frame around them and a sill so the water doesn't get in around them, and the water will just spill out the front like it's supposed to. And this electrical wire, I'm just going to take that off of the wall when I rebuild this, and I will string that back on the inside, of course on the inside, when I put that wall back up, so that I do have, you know, power on this side of the wall. You know, it's a little shaky right there, being mounted right there beside, basically outside. So I'm going to take those off and get the electricity on this side of the wall when I put it back together. Don't worry, I know it's disconnected around the corner. thought I'd take this support off to see what we're looking at. And yeah, there's the bottom beam and what's left of it. So if I cut it like to 6 inches or so over there to tie into it if I have to, I think it's pretty strong over there, but this side is just gone. But now I can clean this up. Now I'm not going to tear this wall apart today. I still have to make a fence and fence off this part of the barn. So I'm going to take this short section of fence here, disconnect it from that post. So I'm going to start at this post here and make a straight line right to the edge of the barn so that I'll have a wire fence there. And that's because of this guy. Now, you always hear all the time, anybody who has had goats knows they can get out of anything. And I don't want him, you know, when this is gone, he'll be able to get through there and, you know, have the run of the place. So I'm going to put a fence in here and keep him away from the work while I'm working on that. And I'll be able to get in and out of the barn a whole lot easier without that fence. Right now I've got to go through the gate and shut it behind me every time so the goat doesn't get out. So that's why I'm not starting on it today. But once I get some supplies, put some fence posts in, I've still got, you know, some ratty old rusty fence posts laying around, so I can put those in. I've got enough to make a straight line here. And then once I get the fence up, I can start tearing the wall apart and get lumber, get supplies, and put that back together. All right, today is the day to do some fencing. As mentioned, I've got fencing that goes back to the side of the barn from this post on back. I'm going to bar that, pull it off of those fence posts. I've got some metal posts put in here in a straight line back to the barn. And I'm just going to disconnect the fence and string it up. And the bees are crazy today. You know, these big fat black bumblebees, they're all over the place. Yeah, I know goats can chew through zip ties. That's temporary until I can get some fence wire. There's some around here, I just have to find it. All right, I got the new fence up and it's secured. We had the goat back here penned up in the barn just to keep him out while the fence was down. So I'm gonna let him out, let him check out his new digs, see what he thinks. Check this out. What do you think? It's yeah, it's a fence. I like that. Well, he's working on his leaves for now. Maybe he'll get interested in the fence later. All right, buddy. Enjoy. Okay, here's what I ended up doing because it was free. Started the fence here, borrowed from what was against the barn. I set up 3 metal fence posts here. And then, because it was free, there was a 10-foot fence panel sitting around the corner. So that took up the last little bit all the way to the corner of the barn. Now, you might look at this little piece here and say, isn't that enough for a goat to get through? Yes, it is. Goats are crazy. But there was another fence panel sitting here, so I latched them together. This is very solid. He's not going to get through there. He's not going to get through here. So, I think we're nice and goat proof. Now that I've got that fence in, I'm turning my attention to this wall again to figure out how to take this thing apart and how to shore it up. I was pretty certain that this post in the middle went the whole way to the ground. I was mistaken. This thing goes to that bottom beam and then just tees into it. That's all there is. So this bottom beam carries the weight from that wall over to this wall, but it doesn't. So what I'm noticing is that this line that this beam describes now does not point to this corner properly. So I think what I might have to do is lift up on this post until this bottom beam does point to that corner. Now, that corner may need lifted a bit on its own, but I think if I get this lifted up so that those meet, I think we're in good shape. But that also means looking up above. Because there is no top beam really besides, these things, I mean to put in a new top beam between these two ends, which means taking off these scabbed boards here, which means the roof is not supported by anything at that point. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to tie in a board between here, touching all these rafters, and then over to this wall. I'm going to attach that to this wall so that if I have to lift anything up down here, all of this will go with it, and these beams will be supported while this wall is disassembled. Found a horseshoe buried for how long in that dirt? I wouldn't be surprised if I found another one. Now that I've unsheathed this wall, I get a better idea of what's happened in this corner. You can see this bottom beam is a substantial piece of lumber. This thing is a full 6-inch by 4-inch piece of wood. Now, it has, rotted away a little bit and it's settled onto this rock. It's still a good 5-inch piece of lumber, so, that's plenty strong. Now what you can see here is at the end in the corner, what they did is they cut a bit of a half-lap joint to join over top of the beam below it. And if the lighting is right here, you might see that top tongue that goes over top of the lower beam on this long wall is they left about 2 inches, which means that should be a 4-inch cutout down there, and it has dropped considerably. It looks like this corner might have to go up about 4 inches. Now, this offset half lap joint, half laps are normally, you cut away half from one beam and you cut away half from the other beam and they sit together correctly, but that's not really what they did here. But there is precedent for what they did, because over here in this corner, with this horizontal beam attached to this one, they did kind of the same thing. It's not a full half lap joint, but they carved away both enough to give it some engagement. So going with that, I'm going to assume that's what they did in the corner as well. So I just need to, looks like I need to jack up that corner maybe about 3 inches or so to give me enough space to get a beam underneath that half lap joint again and get it set correctly. And that's also assuming that that rock was the reference point and the rock has not settled at all either. Let's check the other corner and see how they did it. Over here, this corner is still intact, so we should be able to see how they put their joint together. And look at that. Very nice half lap joint. Just like the other one used to be. Well, good to know. I've been trying to decide what to do to tie in the new lumber with the old lumber to get this beam back in here. I want to keep the strength of this oak as much as possible. Now, the owner and I have decided that rebuilding all of this with oak is just a little too price prohibitive. So I'm going to get some new sheathing out of 1-inch oak, and that will preserve the outside of the look. It'll look like an old oak barn again. The inside, I'm just going to have to use pressure treated lumber, and I'll have to get creative to match the sizing of what's inside here. So what I think I will do, when I hacked off the remaining part of this beam, I'm not sure if you can tell or not, the outside is rotted away pretty good, but there's still 2 inches of good oak right here, and it was quite strong cutting through it. So I think there's still a good bit of strength to be had here. So what I'm going to do, I've got about 18 inches or so here of oak beam that's left. I'm going to take some cues from what they did with their half laps, and I'm going to cut away 3 inches of this 5-inch square beam. I'm going to cut 3 inches of the rot away, leaving me with a 2-inch strip of good solid oak. And that with a 4x4 inside of there taking up the rest of that space. I might have to shave that down half an inch or an inch or so, but I can make up that space with the remaining part being the 4x4 and then having the original oak here, and then lag those two together for this length, and that should give me a lot of strength tying it into the remaining part of this wall. The 4x4 will then continue on to that corner, and I can add another 2x4 underneath or on the face, whatever I need to do to get that full width, whatever I need, height or width over in that corner. And that should give me a nice strong tie-in to the original wall frame. I also noticed something pretty funny about this wall. This 2x4 up here isn't doing anything. It's just attached to the boards, but it's not attached to any structure at all. These face boards are not attached to these, and there's nothing else up there for it to attach to, so they're not attached to structure, nor are they attached on the bottom. The only thing that these are attached to is this. And this tees into this guy, and it's not attached on the bottom. So this is attached here. This is attached over here. And that's it. If I were to cut this here and cut this here, that whole wall would fall out, which might be kind of fun to do. How's that for letting the sunshine in? Maybe I should think about an open wall. This is nice. Maybe an addition. What do you think? Just push this out about 10 feet, have a little more shop space? Yeah, that'd be pretty nice. All right, let's clean this mess up. Unfortunately, I don't think the camera caught any of that. At a jaunty angle, can't really argue with that too much. Right? Anybody?